Today I will be doing another coaster review of maybe the most complete roller coaster in the world, Velocicoaster. Velocicoaster is an elite attraction at the elite theme park of Islands of Adventure in Orlando, Florida. This park is filled with many great rides like Hagrid's, Harry Potter, Forbidden Journey, The Hulk, and many others, but I still think that this one is the best and it's not really close. And I think that's a testimony of how good it really is, being that it's the best ride out of all of these other great rides. This ride is so good because of its mix of airtime, inversions, buttery smooth track, launches, and the best theming for a thrill coaster. First, the entry experience, which is some of the best in the world. When you walk up, you see a big sign saying Velocicoaster with two big velociraptors on each side with flames. Overall, there's nothing to really complain about. It's overall pretty simple, but it's pretty good and still detailed very well. And next to the sign to the left, you can see the ride's top hat. And seeing the coaster train go by while hopping in line is so cool. Next up is the amazing queue line, which is insanely detailed and the best theming queue line for any major thrill coaster I have seen. And before we start, if you don't want to know what's in the queue line, skip to the time listed on the screen. But the first couple of switchbacks and the outside switchbacks don't have any theming, but it's still pretty nice. But right before you go into the main building for the queue, you see an amazing Velociraptor sculpture. It has the four raptors from the movies with the coaster intertwined between the four, and it's just a really cool sculpture and a great way to start the queue. Then you walk into a mini room with two switchbacks, and you have your first main theming room, which is right next to the first launch of the coaster. Seeing all the lights go from white to red during the launch is really cool. And not only that, but there are Velocicoasters that run past the coaster as it launches, which is super cool. Then you have a few switchbacks in another room that has a couple props, but nothing really as detailed as the previous room. But then you have maybe the best room in the entire queue. It has four rafting holder mechanisms with two escaped raptors. But there are still two of them there, and the raptor animatronics are the most detailed that I've seen to date. They breathe, look, and even move so realistically. I could watch them all day since it's such a realistic theming detail. Then you put all your stuff in a locker, go through metal detectors, and go up some stairs. Then you are met with the huge room before the station. This room has a huge screen with the characters from the Jurassic World movies talking about the ride. And next to that big screen, there are more switchbacks with some subtle theming details. And then you walk up to the station, where you see the amazing Intamin trains and the Raptor paddock right behind it that you can see through some windows. But you get on the train, and you start your ride. You exit the station, take a left-hand turn through some mist, and you are met with the first launch. This is a solid launch that takes you 0 to 40 miles per hour, and it's surrounded by pretty solid theming. After that, you hit a Emmelman and a dive loop through some big rocks. You seriously think that you're going to smack right into the rocks, and it's a great hand chopper. And both inversions have good airtime and whip, which is really surprising. Take a short right-hand turn into a small hill with great ejector airtime. Really the only good airtime moment in the first half, but it's so strong and it's really good. Take a left turn, weave through some rock work, and pass some raptors, and hit another sharp right turn into another hill, but sadly, this one doesn't have any airtime. You curve down to the right and hit the second launch of the ride. Overall, the first half is insanely nice, with great detailing to the rocks and the surroundings, but I think that the second half is definitely much more superior than the first. You roll into the second launch, which is pretty crazy for an LSM launch. It gets you all the way up to 70 miles per hour, which is the fastest launch in all of Florida. But after that crazy launch, you go into the 150-foot top hat. This element has so much airtime on the way down, and probably the most sustained airtime moment of the ride. And for the tallest moment on the ride, it's pretty good, and it's a great top hat. You fly into a 0G stall, which is sadly just okay. You get good upside-down airtime, but compared to many other 0G stalls, it's just not as good. Compared to many other 0G stalls, this one doesn't have any hang time or weightlessness that you feel in other stalls, but at least this one is very whippy on the way in and on the way out. You continue turning to the right, you hit a wall stall with a great pop of sideways ejector airtime that's really cool, but I really like this element. You continue turning right and you hit a Outer Bank hill. This element is another great moment of ejector airtime. This one is really weird since on the way up you really don't get any airtime, but being whipped down through the element to the right is really what gives it that great pop of ejector airtime. You turn to the right again, go through an overbank, and hit maybe the best inversion that I've been on, the Mosasaurus roll. You feel like you're going to get flung into the water, and at the same time, you get insane ejector airtime, and it's just perfect. Down to the last detail, there's nothing wrong with it. And the Mosasaurus roll is probably the greatest ending to any coaster of all time. Another great element to finish this ride is the twisted hill after the Mosasaurus roll. Nobody talks about this element, but this is actually a great moment of ejector airtime, and getting whipped from right to left as you hit the brakes is insanely whippy and insanely slept on. Then you hit the brakes, and that concludes your ride. And as you hit the brakes, there's an overcom of one of the characters from the Jurassic World movie talking about the Jurassic Park River Adventure ride and how all the Velociraptors have escaped that ride, and that's just a great way to tie these two rides together. Overall, this ride is elite. The theming in the queue and on ride is amazing and some of the best in the entire world. Out of all the rides that I've been on, it has the best theming for any major thrill coaster, and it's not really close. And the ride's mix of a smooth track, crazy inversions, amazing ejector airtime, and an elite layout makes me can't get enough of this ride each time I go. Overall, I give Velocicoaster a 10 out of 10, and it's well deserved, and this ride is perfect. Thanks for watching. Vote on my community tab since I like making videos that you guys want to watch. But other than that, have a good day.